Hey everybody, what is going on? HexLex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So today, I wanted to talk about a couple of really important notifications that just recently came up here, and they are regarding not only a very minor Forbidden Limited List update, but the new selection pack has been announced. Let's actually start with the selection pack, because this, I believe, will contain one of the most important updates, maybe arguably in this whole year, to Master Duel, and that is the inclusion of a new card called Fidrellis Harmonia. Now, unless you are completely unaware of any amount of TCG or OCG, meta or tournament coverage, then you've probably heard of this card before, but just in case you haven't, I'm going to break down just why this card is going to be so game-breaking. So, Fidrellis Harmonia is a level 7 Dark Dragon Tuner Effect monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. That states, when a monster your opponent controls activates its effect, you can reveal this card in your hand and up to 5 synchro monsters in your extra deck. Apply all of these effects in sequence based on the number revealed. Also, you cannot activate the effects of monsters special summoned from the extra deck until the end of your next turn after this effect resolves, except synchro monsters. If you reveal 2 or more, you can special summon this card. If you reveal 4 or more, send 1 revealed synchro monster to the graveyard, and if you reveal 6, because remember you reveal this plus 5 synchro monsters, if you reveal 6, then you can also destroy 1 monster your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Fidrellis Harmonia once per turn. So this is a very potent, very powerful hand trap, specifically for synchro-based decks. Now, obviously, a synchro-based deck has recently done very well in the latest World Championship qualifier. And I suppose you probably all know that I'm talking about Cool Tune. We can pretty easily see why Konami prioritized hitting Cool Tune heavily so soon after the event, right? It was definitely an anticipation for this card, because having access to Fidrellis Harmonia on top of everything else about it would have made full power Cool Tune just way too good. So, yeah, I definitely think that this card will see play in Cool Tune, obviously, but more than that, I think this might even push Cool Tune back up to being the best deck in the meta. In my recent tier list, I stated that while I thought Cool Tune would remain a tier 1 deck after the ban list, there was a real chance that Radiant Typhoon and or Branded could surpass it, but now with Fidrellis Harmonia coming out, I actually think Cool Tune is just still definitely going to be the best deck. There's an important thing to note about this card, though, specifically the effect. Like, yeah, you're probably realizing, like, okay, you get this special summon, you can pop any monster on the field. Doesn't target, by the way, and doesn't have to be the monster that's activating an effect. You just get to destroy any monster your opponent controls. But this card can actually do even more in the way of disruption by the 4+ effect, which also sends the revealed synchro monster to the graveyard. We'll come back and talk about the other cards in a second, but we also definitely need to make sure that we're talking about some of the better targets to send off the Fidrellis Harmonia. There will be a couple of pretty obvious candidates, the first one being Herald of the Arclight. Yes, it becomes very, very easy for Mitsurugi to use this card in order to search up their plays, when you can just use Fidrellis Harmonia to not only do that, but also disrupt your opponent at the same time on their turn 1. So Herald of the Arclight is definitely a really big contender. Golden Cloud Beast Malong. This is another, I don't know why I'm putting them in a deck, but this is another level 6 synchro monster here. This one, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So it is targeted, but it's also bouncing, so that gets around destruction protection. It's any face-up card, so you could also do it on a spell or trap card. If it's like a continuous trap card in particular, obviously your opponent would have to reset it face down. It wouldn't be able to activate it in the same turn. I've also seen, I'm trying to remember how you spell this, Enigmaster, right? Yeah, Enigmaster Packbit is also a pretty decent candidate. The idea here is that you can target a monster in your graveyard or face-up monster opponent controls, discard a card, and then put in the owner's spell trap zone as continuous trap card. I actually did used to own this card. I used to play it in MathMech, but I did dismantle it at one point. I do kind of regret that now, of course, that Fidrellis Harmonia is coming out, but I will also say that Enigmaster Packbit might be one of the weaker options just because it requires a discard, right? So the other disruption effects that you have access to, like Malong, or a search effect like Herald of the Arclight, don't have any additional costs. But this, you will also have to discard a card, which can be a bit much sometimes. And then finally, let's see, it's like Wind Pegasus, yep, add Ignister. This is actually another really solid option. It's not one that adds a layer of disruption immediately like Malong or Eating Master Packbit, but Wind Pegasus add Ignister does have a relevant graveyard effect. If one of your cards is destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effect, then you can banish it and target a card your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck. So it's a little bit more specific of a condition activation, but it's also a pretty decent effect. So I think that you would mainly be looking at one of these, or sometimes even two or more of these Synchro monsters to use with Fidrellis Harmonia, right? Often though, you'll really only need like one or two. So I've seen in the OCG lately, it tends to be like Malong plus Wind Pegasus Ignister seems to be the most popular combination. Malong plus Packbit is also a pretty popular combo. And again, if you're playing Mitsurugi, you can just dump the Herald of the Arclight, and then you can search up a ritual monster. Obviously, Mitsurugi doesn't really care if they're only locked into effects of Synchro deck monsters from the extra deck, which is a pretty important distinction to make, by the way, and another reason why Fidrellis Harmonia is so good. It doesn't stop you from doing extra deck summons besides Synchro summoning. It just says that only Synchro monsters are the only monster special summon from the extra deck that can activate their effects. So if you want to pump out like a Towers monster that's like an Xyz or a Link, you can totally still do that, and that would actually still be good because effects like, you know, unaffected or can't be destroyed by battle or card effect or can't be targeted, etc., those are not activated effects. So Fidrellis Harmonia actually still does allow you for some amount of plays outside of Synchro summoning from the extra deck. Obviously, most of them are going to be, sorry, hit my keyboard there. Obviously, most of them are still going to be off limits, but it is definitely an option for sure. There are some other cards here to talk about. Starving Venom, the Predaplant archetype, getting some follow-up support here with Starving Venom Wing Dragon. And then also there's the, here we go, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon for Heavenly Dragons. This one I will go over because it's a pretty relevant Super Poly target. Level 8, Dark Dragon Fusion, 2800 attack, 2000 defense, 2 Dark Monsters on the field, so pretty easy to see why it's a good Super Poly target. Let's see. This card is always treated as a Predaplant card. If this card is special summoned, you can target one other face-up monster on the field, change its attack to 0, negate its effects, and also it becomes dark. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can fusion summon one Dark Fusion monster from your extra deck using dark monsters on either field, including this card. You can only use each effect of Starving Venom, the 4 Heavenly Dragons, once per turn. So, regular Starving Venom did occasionally pop up as a Super Poly target, but generally people tended to favor stuff like Mud Dragon and Garura because it doesn't just hit one attribute, those can hit any attribute, right? But now, you kind of have a reason to have a Super Poly target that is specific to one attribute, Dark Monsters, because this one is just so strong. Not only does it negate a monster's effect and reduce its attack to 0 when it is special summoned, changing it to Dark could also matter for certain decks needing certain attributes for summoning conditions, but if you're a fusion-based deck, you can actually just start quick effect fusing more Dark Monsters on your opponent's turn. Very, very potent, and yeah, as a result of having 2 very powerful effects, you would actually consider, especially if you're playing a fusion-based deck, this card over something like Mud Dragon or Garura as a Super Poly target. I imagine Branded would definitely not mind having this, not just for a Super Poly target, but you could also just summon it, right? 2 Dark Monsters on the field is a pretty easy condition to achieve. So I do think this card will also have some meta relevancy. Speaking of cards and decks in particular that will have meta relevancy, it looks like Fairy Tail is getting its follow-up support. So Teller of Fairy Tales is an Earth level 4 fusion effect monster spellcaster, 1850 attack, 1000 defense. Materials are 1 light Fairy Tail monster plus 1 spellcaster monster. Fairy Tail monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. You can only use each effect of the following effects of Teller of Fairy Tales once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, using Prince of Fairies as a material, you can destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each card destroyed. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can banish 1 Fairy Tail card from your hand or graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So, yeah, being not only a board wipe, but also an omni-negate, obviously very, very powerful. And Magistus Fairy Tale, I do actually think will have a decent impact on the meta. If I had to guess, it'll probably be upper tier 3, but possibly even a tier 2 deck coming into the meta. Yeah, when combined with Magistus, which obviously has a lot of really good spellcaster support and are just very good cards themselves, the deck does tend to do quite well from what I've seen in, you know, OCG/TCG meta play. More OCG, I mean, I always look more at the OCG because that tends to reflect Master Duel more closely, so that's mainly what I'm basing that off of, but I do think that Magistus Fairy Tale will be a meta-relevant deck when it comes into Master Duel. The new train stuff, can't really say. There is also some other mention of cards not featured here. New Tellarknight, Constellar, and X-Saber cards. I have looked through those, and I don't think that those will end up making a huge impact. We'll still go over them when the new pack comes out, and we have more confirmation on what exactly is going to be in there, but just looking at all the newest support for those archetypes, it doesn't really seem like they pushed any of those decks into being, you know, tiered or super competitive, but it is still nice to get some follow-up support for some pretty cool decks. But that's not the only notification we have in here. As mentioned before, there is a brief update to the upcoming Forbidden and Limited lists, and that is Instant Fusion is being unbanned, going from 0 to 1. No erratas or anything. Well, none on the Instant Fusion. Of course, we have seen recently in the OCG that Elder Entity Norden is getting an errata that states that it only gets its effect when, I believe, actually, you know, summoned. What is the actual? I know it's a once per turn, but there's another. I think it's actually when it's summoned from the extra deck, which wouldn't stop Instant Fusion from working. I can't remember off the top of my head, but is this actually going to be super broken? I don't think so. Of course, the first thing that people are very quick to point out is that the Tier Limits Kikalos is still legal in Master Duel and does end up being probably one of the better targets for Instant Fusion. But that said, I think that's fine. Like, if you look at where Tier Elements is not only at currently, but has been at for arguably, like, at least... I don't know, I'm trying to think back. Like, I think the last time Tier Elements was, like, really meta-relevant was when Gem Knight got its first follow-up support. Like, when Nephilim and the other cards very first came out. Gem Knight Tier Elements, I would say, was definitely like at least tier 3, if not a lower tier 2 deck at that time. But as time's gone on, you know, Gem Knight Tier Elements and every other Tier Elements variant has just kind of been slowly declining as far as its meta relevancy. I would argue that right now Tier Elements is like maybe the bottom of tier 3, but I would honestly argue that it's more of a rogue deck. So I don't think them getting Instant Fusion is going to break the deck by any means, especially because it's going to be, you know, an unsearchable one of. I've already seen people kind of dooming about this, but I really don't think it's going to matter that much. It'll be a nice starter for Tier Elements, like one extra starter, but like, yeah, I think it'll be fine, honestly. Let's see, level 5 or lower fusion. We looked at Fidrellis Harmonia targets. We might as well, you know, search that up here in Master Duel and see if there's anything like particularly egregious, but I don't suspect that'll be the case. All right, looking at fusion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's sort by rarity, just so we can look at some URs. There is El Shaddai Winda. That is not bad, but at the end of the day, like I said, you know, with Kikalos, I don't think that ends up being like the most broken thing in the world. It is a floodgate, which is always obviously going to be really annoying, but I'll make the same point I made with Kikalos, is that it's an unsearchable, you know, one of Instant Fusion, so I don't think it'll come up super often. Master of Ham, actually not irrelevant. There's Entis. Yeah, I think Kikalos is probably going to remain the most relevant target. I mean, outside of maybe someone wanting to be cute and use Thousand Eyes Restrict as a bit of a board breaker, but I don't think it'll be that broken, honestly. You could use something fun, like get a tuner like Alvain or Sea Monster of Theseus. You could use it as a super poly target still, and then also level 5 tuner that you have access to, but again, it's not like you can base any strategies, like revolve it totally around that, because you'll still have your just one of, you know, Instant Fusion. So I think it's fine. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think Fidrellis Harmonia coming in the next pack is a much bigger deal. But I definitely want to talk more about this in an upcoming video. So for now, I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you as always for watching. Super appreciate the support, especially watching all the way to the end. Really helps smaller channels like myself. So thank you so very much. But that's all I got for you for now. So let's go ahead and move on to our outro so we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.